Greetings in the name of Ra Newt. All that is good and great, all that is blessed and beautiful, all that is creative and conscious, and all that is positive and possible. May all your blessings be infinite like the night stars, and all good things be never ending. Hotep, I'm Indisolo Bayobankole, your host to Mind Vibe, Thoughts from a Curious Mind, a bi-monthly podcast series exploring and examining social phenomenons then and now. Now in this episode, I'm going to be dealing with, what I entitled In the Pursuit of Blissful Ignorance. And this is dealing with the whole trend of this country to go backwards and to relish in this kind of ignorance mentality. Right? But before we go there, hit the like button, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Right? Now I'm going to do this slightly different than the other episodes that I have done. And again, I entitled this, In the Pursuit of Blissful Ignorance, a Fear of Knowledge. When did knowledge become a creature that eats the minds of those who seek it? Now, I did this piece, so let me do this quote first. Quote unquote, people thinking they've been took, just finding out they overlooked. They never found the missing link, forgot they got a mind to think. Why don't you check out your mind? Been with you all the time. Curtis Mayfield, check out your mind. Now I'm going to do this piece of poem, and then we're going to get into the crux of the matter. In the pursuit of ignorance. Then, yesterday, history tells stories of ancient Kemet, their thirst of knowledge, of the great philosophers of Athens, the Europeans, and engagement of enlightenment. These civilizations have grown from their times of infancy to relish in the pursuit of mind stimulation. Yet, here in America, even from its beginnings, scholarly pursuits were but a fantasy, and intellectuals were looked upon with disdain and irritation. Then there, yesterday, flickers upon our eyelids, remote sounds brush our ears. There are memories we should preserve, a time when knowledge was golden, its weight was seen as a great period of fulfillment and joy. But now, here in this American fantasy, intellect is being treated with great consternation to every girl and boy. Here, today, ignorance has become the norm. Religious zealots have become the persuasion, while the shredding of knowledge is being torn. Yet, yesteryears, we moved from the Neanderthal reality to develop our mental capacity so that we could see, we could dream, and pursue a vision, take hold of our own destiny. Yet now, here, today, knowledge welcomed us to grow, develop from the mere mindless creatures below us. Yet, was it unrelenting pursuit of ignorance that today, here, now, our mental growth we mistrust? No, learning did not die, but the development of our curiosity, however, has come under assault. Like the weapons of death, we are killing the very essence of our human nature, becoming mindless machines, never to ask the questions why, only to become an empty vault, only to listen to the chatters of religious fervor and not ask the questions that we need, not continue our quest and reach with our minds the essence of our intellectual seeds. Here, now, today our narratives ride upon shadows mist. Let us not pursue ignorance as the golden nugget of mental nirvana. Instead, continue our journey through the thoughtless chatters of ignorant stimulation. We must not wallow in the waste of intellectual frustration, but continue our journey to seek the visions, to hear the voice of the ancient mind bearers, and wrap ourselves in the power of scholarly fruition. And yes, rid this nation of their quest for an ignorant people, the zealots and the eaters of knowledge. For education, the love of understanding, the thirst of enlightenment, the sound of inspiration, and the continuous thrust forward for intellectual creative nirvana. This must be what we as a people in this nation must do, and be true to what the ancients have always believed, that knowledge will set you free. And this, above all, will allow us to live joyfully in the pursuit of ignorance. Quote unquote, the theocracy of ignorance should never be mistaken for intellectual bliss. Instead, one should seek the nirvana of knowledge with the application of intelligence and the appreciation of wisdom. My own quote. It is, I believe, with those who are now with the so-called MAGA movement, as well as the right-wing conservative evangelical thoughts that wish America and all its people to be as the Puritans were back in the 1600s, God-fearing and work until you drop. Now this is what, these were the people who came to this shore. These people who were very, very Calvinistic, working to sun up to sunset because, back then this was a farm nature, an agricultural thing. You had to get up 4 o'clock in the morning to plant them seeds and stuff. But you had to have faith. So, education was further thing from their mind. Right? As a European scholar once said, you cannot control a people if they're intelligent. But today, it seems we are moving further and further away from any real advancements of knowledge. In fact, with this whole crusade of burning books, as in the novel of 451, particularly shielding little white Marys and Bobbies from knowing what other people are and the real history of who and what America is, it is almost becoming like the European Dark Ages with the peasants knowing nothing. Right? Now, when you look in history, you go back to places like Timbuktu or to Alexandria. These were places of enlightenment. But when you look at after the fall of Rome, and you look at the Dark Ages in Europe in the Middle Ages, it isn't until you get to the Enlightenment period in the 1700s with the printing press is where you start getting a quest for this knowledge. Now, in the film The Rose with Sean Connery, who is playing a monk, he is a knowledgeable clergyman coming to this monastery, I think somewhere in Italy, where there is supposed to be a treasure trove of books that he wanted to examine. This is a monastery that was known for its intellect, its pursuer of knowledge. But instead, when he gets there, the secret library that has all of these books is closed off from the rest of the monastery community. And instead, what he finds are monks that were somewhat ignorant, right? Because this was supposed to be, and in the end scenes, he finds this library with all of these books. Oh man, I mean, he was just beside himself, and he wanted to save all these books. because this is the at the heart of learning, examining other cultures, examining other people, reading, right? This slow trend to dumb down the American people, though it is mainly somewhat out of the corporations and evangelicals, it is now being pushed to the general populace and in particular the white communities. This need to keep everyone ignorant of what and who America is, to somehow, as I have dealt with in my last episode, to journey back to nostalgia, to keep Americans illiterate, particularly black and brown people. Now, this is something that Malefic Santi deals with in the academy. This whole idea that the pinnacle of the European knowledge base is philosophy. Philosophy is Greek. Philosophy is at the pinnacle. You have to think deep. You have to have deep thoughts. Everybody else, only Europeans, only whites can have this deep thought. But when you look further, philosophy, philo meaning lover of, Sophia meaning brother or wisdom, and when you look further, in as Malefic said in the book of etymology, philosophy, they don't even know where it comes from. It's not a Greek word, and in fact, most of the Greeks, like Thales, when Pythagoras comes to Thales and he says, teach me all you know, Thales said, you must do as I have done. You must learn from the Africans. Because again, this is where, from Kemet, knowledge comes from. Most of the Greek philosophers come out of that. But yet, here in America, we have a denial of those things. Back in the 1890s, there was this whole push towards this whole anti-education, and I think I read somewhere where there was these massacres of teachers and burning of schools and things, just like in Germany, in Hitler's Germany, burning books. You had that in the 1950s here. You had that in the 1960s, burning books. There's certain things they didn't want you to know, And so you had this push against education, and you don't get an educational department until 1976 with Jimmy Carter. Again, if you make Americans ignorant, then you don't have to answer unwanted questions about the American project itself. The problem, of course, will always be that whenever you try to hide knowledge, it tends to break through the dark tides of ignorance and resurface with a vengeance, as it did with the young white youth in the 1960s. You can't lie. I mean, that's what's happening in Russia. You got this idiot who's playing with his weaker-whacker, throwing bombs on Ukraine, but trying to keep his people in Russia ignorant. And I don't think that's going to last too long. And I think he might find, his people aren't going to deal with that, because again, knowledge will not be contained. It just doesn't happen. You can look at, people who try to keep it down. Somehow or another it comes through, because that's just what knowledge does. The idea of learning. In the film Fahrenheit 451, Clarissa is talking to Montrose and she's asking, well, why do you burn these books? Because when you ask questions, if you don't get the answers, then, the person's asking the question, they're going to pursue it. Children are beautiful human beings. They will ask questions, why? Okay, why can't I do that? Why? Why is this way? The same way that those white youths back in the 60s asked, well, wait a minute, what are you doing to these blacks? Why are you doing that? And their parents and the establishment, no. No, you can't do that. You cannot hide knowledge. Because once knowledge sets a fire, it's like a burning bush. It will continue to glow. It will continue to burn. Like a raging sea, it will continue to move. Because that's what knowledge does. That's what the pursuit of knowledge. That's education. Right? But this pursuit of blissful ignorance, to not want to know, to dumb down your people, is dangerous. It's dangerous because it leaves one vulnerable. Right? And it does nothing for the growth and development not only of just the human being itself, but for the country and the nation. And if we continue this roll down to nostalgia of 1950s, or this fantasy of what America was, or this ignorance of we don't need to know about what America, when we do ourselves a grave disservice and we deny the possibilities of what a utopian society could look like. And we don't allow humanity or even the possibility of a humane society to see what it possibly and the potential that it could have for the world in and of itself. Now this is the teacher Olabaya Bicoli with another episode of Mind Vibes. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. But until the next time, this is the teacher Olabaya Bicoli say, may we all strive to bend the arc of justice towards humanity and believe that peace and love can be achieved. Madasa Peace.